Welcome to Movie Nation. Hello, everyone. We talk about the movies like it's a national pastime. I'm your host, Ken Reels, and today on the show we are talking Child's Play, which has a new poster, oddly enough, but we're talking we're talking long shots, we're talking Uglydolls, we're talking shockingly evil and incredibly vile, especially talking about Netflix's big thing with their films. Netflix has a whole bunch of very interesting slated films on their docket that I kind of want to talk about because, frankly, they're killing it. They're really killing it. As well as we have the news. As I mentioned, there's a new Child's Play poster, and we have a new casting thing for the Suicide Squad, as well as the death of actor Peter Mayhew. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit later on in the show. As well, of course, we have our Movie Nation trailer of the week. Spoilers, it's the one trailer that everyone flipped out about this week. And if you don't know what that is, well, enjoy trying to guess that as the show continues. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, before we get going, I want to just say thank you to everyone that checked out the stream yesterday, and anyone that is listening. I have another movie podcast, another podcast called This Anime, which has returned from the grave, and recorded that 2-hour chunk live here on Saturday night. And today we're going to be talking shop with movies because, of course, we're going to be talking shop with movies because that's what we do here on the show. And as such, we are going to start off with our talk about Long Shot, which is the Seth Rogan, Charlize Theron romantic comedy-ish. Yeah, it's a romantic comedy. That's a pretty good and fair assessment. And this film honestly shocked me. It really did. It was a very shocking situation. I did not expect to be actually just blown away at how good the chemistry between Seth and Charlize was, and how, like, I was genuinely rooting for them from the get-go. And you kind of, like, you really do feel the chemistry between its two leads, and it just works. It, oddly enough, works. And that's shocking because you never expect these two to have chemistry, but they really, really do. And that's kind of the crux of the entire movie. The crux of the movie is just like, how did a movie about two unexpected people falling in love actually get great casting and makes sense that the two of these people do fall in love? Because it's just an amazing piece of surprising cinema for me. Because I thought it was, I thought from the get-go, like, we did cover it on the show when the trailer dropped, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, this looks pretty good. Definitely something I'll check out. And then when it came down to it, of course I'm going to go check it out. And I was like, from the outset, I'm like, this is really well written. This is really well done, well acted. Ice Cube's son is playing, like, the best friend character in this movie. And, like, if you've seen a romantic comedy, you kind of get the whole gist of how this movie plays out. Because it's a cliche romantic comedy. But it just works. It very much works. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but I think it will please just about everyone who watches it, because it's just good. It's just flat out a good film. And when it comes to some of the other cast in this movie, like Charlize's her secretary / assistant is really, she's got this very biting comedy with Seth, because she obviously doesn't like the fact that he's kind of coming into the picture, and he's just kind of like, well, fuck you. And like they have some really good witty banter between the two of them, and it nails it on everything. And then you have some of the funny bits where Charlize is being kind of an eccentric goofball while still trying to be like the Secretary of State, as she is in this movie. And she's just like absolutely she's phenomenal at presenting kind of the goofball she's a goofball inside, but at the same time she has to be this dignified person and has to be tough because she's a woman in politics, and that's just the way it has been forever. And Seth, as his character, has to kind of grow as well because he's very much one-sided. Everything has to be black and white, and there's never any gray. And his buddy, played by Ice Cube's son, near the end of the film, he's going like, dude, I'm Republican, I'm Christian, I'm all the things you don't like, but we're still friends. We don't have to have our beliefs and our methods just like breaking down friendships. Everything is complicated. You got to think things through much more than this black and white bullshit that you've been spewing your entire life. And you love her, dude. Go actually get her, and don't be a friggin' moron. And it's one of those messages where you just go like, wow, I did not expect that in a Goldberg Rogan production to have such a very biting message, especially when it comes to a movie that's talking about politics, talking about relationships in just a time where shit like this doesn't get talked about, and we're not open to other people's opinions. We're very much, it's our way or the highway. And to see a movie kind of go like, no, fuck you, we're gonna still live our lives despite the fact that we have these personal beliefs. We should just stop pushing that, pushing our agendas on everything that goes on. And it's really something interesting. It's a very interesting film. It's something I'm kind of interested in looking at again when it comes down to some of the best films of the year, because frankly this is one of the best comedies of the year. I legitimately was like laughing consistently throughout. This is probably on par with Shazam in terms of its comedy, because I'm like, oh, yeah, this is pretty dang funny. I laughed a lot. And I walked out of the movie going like, yeah, no, that's a solid film. It's a solid recommendation. It's not like a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. It's not like mind-blowing, but it's definitely a very good, well-made film. And has some great comedy, has some great biting like political like messaging. Like its messaging is just phenomenal. And I think walking out of it, I'm like, yeah, no, this is solid. This is solid. Great message, great acting, great chemistry between the actors. It was definitely it's definitely probably up there with gonna be put in to consideration for best of the year. I don't know whether it's going to end up getting into the best of the year, but it's definitely in contention, especially given that it's just a solid film and it was a really good watch. And speaking of a good watch, despite the fact that I was in a theater full of young children, and that was Uglydolls. So Uglydolls was a is an animated film, and it's very much focused a lot on young kids. Like, it's a young kids kind of film, and it definitely very much appeals to the young kids. Personally, I still dug it. I'm also a sucker for musicals, so you give me some good music, and I will 100% love it. For those of you who listened to the stream pre-show, we played one of the songs from it. I don't know if it's going to get muted in when it comes down to the system, and it might get muted, in which case I'm sorry, but we did play one of the songs at the beginning of the stream, and it is very much a good song. I really just love the music in this. The music is really good. The lyricism is actually pretty on par for a general kids movie. There's some very simple lyrics in a lot of it because, again, it's made for very young kids, so you're not gonna have like big boy words, as it were. They're very, very simple lyric wise, but it was still just an enjoyable watch. And yeah, you can see a lot of just the cliche and the very cookie cutterness of the casting, but it's just wrapped in a very nice warm blanket. It's like it very much feels like a warm blanket of comfort, and it's just fun. It's just a fun time. I think the music is very, very good, very catchy, very earwormy, especially some of the especially when you have cast like Kelly Clarkson, you cast Pitbull, you cast Blake Shelton, and Nick Jonas is our villain, who does a really good job. Nick Jonas as the villain was really, really cool. I actually really dug his performance in this, especially when it came to his villain song, his like villainous turn song. And it's a very short, like it's a reprise of this song he sang earlier, but it has this very nice Disney villain sinister tone to it, and it's really, really cool. I really dug that that little bit of music because he just nailed it on that. And Kelly is very good. She's very optimistic as her character Moxie. Like the optimism of her character is really well done. And the actress that plays one of the Institute of Perfection dolls that kind of joins up with the Uglydolls. She is absolutely 100% amazing, and she does a great ballad with her and Kelly singing. The song is called Unbreakable, and it is really, really cool. And the person is Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe is so very good in this film, and I like the aspect. You can already tell like what this movie is going to be when it comes to the plot. You've seen it 1,000 times in every generic kids movie out there, but it's fine. It's a fine plot. It's serviceable, and I got where the movie was going, even from the trailers, which we did cover on this show when that trailer dropped, because I was very much happy that they were pushing the idea that this was an actual musical, and was really it very much lived up to the idea that this is a musical. It's really good, it's entertaining, and I can't say more than that, because it was just a fun time. But I can 100% see how most people aren't going to necessarily enjoy sitting through this, especially if you're an adult that's not willing to just kind of like, okay, this is cliche. Let me just sit and enjoy these poppy tunes and see a pretty generic plot, but at the same time have a decent time at the film. I will say, sitting in a theater full of little kids and their parents, you could tell that the little kids were getting a little anxious, given in the last like half hour of the film, given the fact that this movie feels a little padded here and there. There are bits and pieces of this movie that really feel like it's padding for feature length, and that's a little bit of a hindrance to its overall presentation. But I still had a good time watching this. Oddly enough, it was a very interesting film to sit through, and I would put it way above like the likes of Wonder Park, which I saw a couple of weeks ago, in early March, I believe. I believe it was March, or like the end of March. But like Wonder Park is way worse than this. This is actually somewhat enjoyable to sit down and watch with your kid, if you have a kid. If the kid's older than like maybe 5, it's gonna be not a good time for either of you. But overall, like I thought it was fine. It's fine. And I would rather watch this over Wonder Park any friggin' day of the week, because Wonder Park is kind of frustrating. As much as I thought Wonder Park was padded, this is less padded than Wonder Park. Wonder Park was very much padding for feature length. And with that, guys, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the news of the week. And it's been a slow news week. There hasn't been a lot in terms of major news updates, but we have a few topics. And before we get into the big talk about Peter Mayhew's passing, we're going to talk about some of the smaller stuff that went on this week, and that is a new poster for Child's Play. So, for those of you who don't know what is happening, the Child's Play reboot, which we did cover as a trailer of the week when that trailer dropped, is going to be coming out the same week as Toy Story 4. And to be cheeky, MGM and the folks over at the Child's Play reboot have released a poster that is making fun of Toy Story's poster. It is Chucky walking away with a bloody shoe, and Woody has the stuffing beat the crap out of. And the background is exactly the same as the Toy Story 4 poster, of which I forgot to pull up, but it's really, really funny and cheeky, and I kind of dig the fact that they're taking a stab at the marketing. And then we also get a nice little this is a nice promo image of Buddy, and I believe that is the kind of more classical looking poster for the new Child's Play. And I mean, we have Mark Hamill as Chucky, and I think overall the marketing for this film has absolutely nailed it. Like this is 100% awesome. I'm digging how this is being presented. I'm very much interested in how this new version of Child's Play will be presented, and I think they're very much nailing it on the head with the marketing. And the next thing on our docket is that James Gunn's Suicide Squad has officially cast the Ratcatcher role. For those of you who didn't know, very recently they announced that one of the actors from Ant-Man, David Desmalkin, is going to be playing Polka Dot Man, and he did confirm that very recently, and it's very much super cool that that casting is, and it won't be the first time he's done a DC movie, because he's actually in The Dark Knight. He's the dude that gets beat the shit out of by Harvey Dent when Rachel, right after Rachel gets kidnapped. And apparently there is a Portuguese actress by the name of Danielle Melchior will be joining as the Ratcatcher. For those of you who didn't know, Jeff Snyder, who reported on the full cast of the Suicide Squad, said that the Ratcatcher would be played by a woman instead of a man, as per the comics. So we have a female version of this character. You might want to go, wait, who is this actress? She's mostly done Portuguese telenovelas, and she was basically up there for the role against Isabelle Moner from Transformers: The Last Knight. And honestly, I'm glad they kind of picked someone a little more obscure, because this could introduce us to a whole new look at both the character and her as an actress, because we're going to get because she's going to have a prominent role, because she's going to be attached to Idris Elba's character, who essentially is leading this movie, with Margot Robbie returning and Jai Courtney returning, obviously. And I'm very much interested in what could happen, and apparently there's been reports that John Cena is joining the cast as probably Peacemaker, which was also one of the characters that was reported from Jeff Snyder. And honestly, there is no casting on King Shark just yet. There's the writer of this article kind of says, "Oh, why don't you get Tom Hardy with CGI to do it?" Because for those of you who don't know, Tom Hardy had to drop out of the original Suicide Squad movie as Rick Flag, and Joel Kinnaman took his place in that film. But yeah, no, the more that we get of these casting choices, the more I go like, okay, there's some good character actors that you're getting for this. I haven't actually seen anything that Danielle Malclear has been in, but hey, I'm looking forward to seeing a trailer once a trailer drops next year. Early next year, more than likely, is when the trailer is going to drop for that. And that leads us into the last little piece of the docket, and that is the sad passing of actor Peter Mayhew, better known as Chewbacca, and he died at the age of 74. I'm going to actually read the full statement from Mayhew's official Twitter and a nice little letter to his fans that was posted on the Twitter. The family of Peter Mayhew, with deep love and sadness, regrets to share the news that Peter has passed away. He left us the evening of April 30th, 2019, with his family by his side in his North Texas home. Peter was a man behind the mask of Chewbacca in the original Star Wars trilogy, Episode 3 of the prequels and the new trilogy. He fought his way back from being wheelchair-bound to stand tall and portray Chewbacca once more in Star Wars The Force Awakens. He also consulted on The Last Jedi in an attempt to teach his successor. He put his heart and soul into the role of Chewbacca, and it showed in every frame of the film, from his knock knee running, firing his bowcaster from the hip, his bright blue eyes, down to each subtle movement of his head and mouth. But to him, the Star Wars family meant so much more to him than just a role in a film. The relationships that began then grew into friends and family that he would love for decades to come. As the films released and became more well known, he had his eyes opened to the possibilities that he could achieve with his role in the Star Wars universe. For more than 30 years, Peter traveled all over the world, spending time with his fans and friends. Peter developed lifelong friendships with the other cast members and his fans while on the convention circuit, touching the lives of millions. He has realized over the years that the impact he could have. He became heavily involved in the 501st Legion, Wounded Warriors, Make-A-Wish, and other nonprofit organizations. In the end, he established the Peter Mayhew Foundation, supporting everything from individuals and families in crisis situations to food and supplies for children of Venezuela during their recent road to freedom. He not only provided funds to become personally involved with each individual family and causes he supported. As he grew older, he continued to soldier on, as he put it, and was completely in his element around his fans and supporters. He grew at great strength from the energy of his family, friends, and the fans he knew and loved. He is survived by his wife, Angie, and 3 children. His kindness, generosity, and care will live on in the Peter Mayhew Foundation, with Angie taking the helm as his voice. There will be a memorial service for his friends and family held on June 29th, and in early December in Los Angeles, there will be a memorial for fans to set up with his family in attendance, personal effects, and collections at EmpireCon LA. For additional information, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, it's one of those regrettable situations that Peter is gone. And we shed condolences to his friends and family, and we hope the best. And we all know that he suffered a great deal over the years, as he was he battled not being able to walk for many years. He was wheelchair bound for many years, and he did a very crazy knee surgery to replace both his knees to actually be able to walk as Chewbacca and be able to walk in general for the first time in over a decade, I believe, to do Force Awakens and be Chewbacca for the most part. Of course, he passed on the role to a, I believe, Swedish actor, who's just as kind-hearted, just as humbled to play Chewbacca as I'm sure Peter was, and we're gonna miss him. as Harrison Ford, I believe, said at Peter's passing, I lost one of my best friends in the world. And that says something pretty profound. Thank you, Peter, for everything that you've done. And I hope you're not suffering anymore. And that leads us into our Movie Nation trailer of the week. From sadness to sheer and utter rage. Because we're talking Sonic the Hedgehog, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the trailer came out early this week. And frankly, this trailer blows. It blows specifically not for the performance of Jim Carrey, of which feels very much a return to form for him. What happens is that this is an ugly design for Sonic. I have nothing against Jason Schwartz. I believe it's Jason Schwartz's performance as Sonic. I think he's fine as the voice of Sonic. The performance is fine. It's the design of Sonic himself that is bad. Everything else about this movie is okay. I think the plot is a little cliche, don't get me wrong, but I think the idea that this ose is at least going to be enjoyable for Jim and Jim alone, as Dr. Robotnik. And of course, at the end of the movie, and at the end of this trailer, we are going to get him actually looking like Dr. Robotnik. But, oh my god, that face. That Sonic face is so ugly because it's just so fucking flat. Like, it's such a flat face, and it just screams a little laziness on account of the design team that made this design. Like, you fix the face, and pretty much I'm okay with, for the most part, the way the body looks. The body's a little wonky here and there, but I think I can deal with that if the face wasn't so butt ugly. The face is just butt fucking ugly. Because, like, it like, really, just fix the face, and I'm cool with it. That's all they need to do, is fix the face. And apparently, they are going to be fixing the face, because the director tweeted out, because of the public backlash, and in terms of public backlash, the official trailer right now is sitting at 578,000 dislikes. And there we go. We get a little bit of Jim as what Robotnik should look like. But we get 578,000 dislikes versus 330,000 likes. And it has been seen by almost 27 million views. Like, it has almost 27 million views. Yeah, the vocal backlash is pretty apparent. And as a result, they are changing up the whole shindig, as it were. I'm hoping, for the sake of the effects team, that it's not going to be such a drastic change in the effects work. Or they could have, like, a design that was in the background ready to go. I hope. I really hope so. Because working the effects team that way, this movie is not going to look good come November. And which also begs the question, why release it? Why release the trailer so early? Because this movie's coming out in November. I would expect it to be coming out, a trailer for this to be coming out in, like, June. Not May. Not the beginning of May. I I think they could have waited like 4 weeks or so and kind of tweaked some of the effects work, but so be it. There's also the conspiracy theorist in me that goes, oh, maybe there was a high up executive that said, no, the design's fine, everyone's going to be fine with it. And then they released this trailer out on the internet, and everyone basically they had the internet veto him because no one else could. And yeah, that is our talk on the Sonic trailer. The movie for the most part will probably be shit. We're gonna see it anyway. Boy, I'm not looking. I'm gonna need to be drinking for that one. And that leads us into a drinking for another reason, and that is the release of Netflix released on Friday the kind of docudrama movie Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, which is the story of Ted Bundy, and more importantly, it's the story of Ted Bundy's arrests and escapes and whatnot within the guise of his girlfriend, played by Lily Collins. And this is a very, very good film. And absolutely blew me away. I literally just watched it this morning. And decided, no, I need to talk about this. And people need to watch this film because it is so captivating. And it's not a violent film per se. It's not as graphic as you would think a movie about a murderous serial killer would be, because it's all through the guise of his girlfriend, Liz, played by Lily Collins, and the scene that is pictured in this poster over here is one that is very, very haunting, because it's framed and the costume design is done in a way where you don't know who's actually in prison or not, because Lily is wearing an orange dress and Zach as Ted Bundy is wearing a orange jumpsuit. But like you have these, but the way it's lit and the way it's shot, you don't know who really is in prison. And it has this great dynamic in terms of its filmmaking, because I think seeing these two characters both in their own kinds of prisons, Liz as a character, she's been imprisoned by the thoughts of, this is all my fault that this person is in jail, because spoilers, she's the one that leaked his name to the authorities. And then it like this whole scene is like, this whole scene opens up the movie and it also closes out the movie, and it's a great bit where she just simply goes, "Did you do it? How did you do it? And more specifically, how did you do this?" And she shows him a picture of a woman decapitated in the woods. And she just wants the truth from him. And it's this great dynamic of, she is absolutely tortured, and she's agonizing over the idea that this person that she still loves is in jail and got the death penalty at this point in the film. And it probably was all because of her. And that absolutely devastates her on so many levels. But what's even more devastating is that she's absolutely a phenomenal, like, Lily Collins just like nails this. And Zach, oh my gosh, Zac Efron is a creepy motherfucker. And and he's still being his charming self. He's still being Zac Efron, which makes it even more interesting. And that little nuance, that slight tick of evil in his eyes, and just like the jump between the two of the lovingness and the heartwarmingness to the wickedness of this person within just a few seconds and just a look is a testament to Zach as an actor, and a testament to kind of push his career in a different angle. Like, I would love to see Zach do roles like this, do these very actorly performances, because it's just amazing. It's just an amazing bit of acting. Haley Joel Osment plays a Lily Collins co-worker and also confidant near the end of who I believe the person she ends up marrying or being a boyfriend, being her actual boyfriend post Bundy. And it just absolutely was an amazing film to watch. And it's not that long of a film. It's like a little over an hour and a half. So you're not going to spend a lot of time watching this film. And that leads us into a discussion of what the heck's going on with Netflix and their productions. Because Netflix has been killing it with what they're doing. And so I wanted to kind of look at some of the original content that Netflix is putting out in terms of their feature films. And I have a list pulled up going through it. And like, they have some really, really interesting stuff. And I think they're going to end up being another Oscar contention. There's going to be an Oscar contention film in their filmography for this year at some point. Like, I will not doubt it in my mind that Netflix is going to end up pulling into another Oscar race, because they're gunning for it. They're gunning for it at this point. They want to get that prestigiousness. I don't think they're going to change a lot of their the way they do things, unlike Amazon, which Amazon kind of plays ball with the theater owners and releases their stuff after the 90-day window, pretty much the same time that it comes out in home video. It comes out on Amazon Prime for their Amazon films. But it just kind of makes me think of like what this could do for Netflix, and what Netflix could actually bring to the table. And we're getting a lot of these smaller films, and if Netflix keeps hitting it out of the park with even these acquisitions, as is the case with Extremely Wicked and Shockingly Evil and Vile, like, just acquiring these films for release is great. It's a great little testament. And even if Netflix saying producing some of these films, I think you get a lot of the middle of the road budgets in terms of films. And if that's the case, then good. I'm totally up for them grabbing some of the smaller stuff that a lot of the big studios aren't going to fund. They're just not going to fund them because they've invested so much money into these big budgets that they don't have the room to fit any of the older stuff. Any of the smaller stuff, I mean. It's really, really interesting to see what I'm really interested to see what Netflix can bring to the table. And some of the films are very, very dumb. You're always going to get the schlock. You got the schlock romantic comedies and romance films that have come out. Honestly, there's a film called Joy, which looks really interesting, and that's coming out at the end of the month, and that's talking about the life of a young Nigerian woman who is forced into a system of sex trafficking in order to support her family. And then there's a stunning thriller / horror movie called The Perfection, focused on a musical prodigy and her rival competing in a cutthroat world of professional cellists. Ooh, that looks interesting. I have not seen the trailer, and that's something I will look into because that's also coming out at the end of the month. That sounds pretty awesome. And there's just so much content that's coming to Netflix, and Netflix is really just pushing it. And I'm hoping that Netflix continues to push it, and hopefully in the future I can start kind of covering some of these Netflix movies, because if something catches my eye, I am totally going to talk about it on this show, because it's definitely worth talking about. It definitely is worth talking about, and even if it is playing in an independent cinema near you, I think it's worth seeing Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, and some of the other stuff. I think The Irishman is going to get a lot of push from Netflix when that comes out later this year, and that's Martin Scorsese's new film. Honestly, we haven't really gotten an actual trailer for it. We've gotten a teaser and a little bit of dialogue with De Niro, but that's about it. There's nothing else about it that we've seen yet, which begs me the question, when the heck's Netflix is going to release this? Is it going to release actually later in the year, in November-ish, or is it going to be the end of this summer? When is The Irishman going to come out? I think they're going to try and push for Oscars for that. And I hope Netflix actually really nails it on the head with that film, because it's Martin Scorsese. He hasn't really gotten a lot of play in terms of making actual money off of his films for the studios. I think the last big film that he did was Wolf of Wall Street, in terms of just successful films release-wise. And even then, it underperformed, given the fact that it was almost 3 hours long. And then you have Silence, which was his latest film that absolutely bombed at the box office because it wasn't promoted, it wasn't released in enough theaters to mean anything, and it just didn't do well at the box office. And that's sad, given its cast was great. Its story was interesting, at least. Sadly, I wasn't able to get to see it in theaters. I wanted to see it in theaters, but it was just released at a really poor time with really poor marketing. It was a mess, and I'm hoping The Irishman actually brings in some interesting stuff. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for Movie Nation today. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KenReels. Follow the podcast at Movie Nation Pod on Twitter. Movie-nation.com is where you can find the full write-up for all the episodes, as well as for this episode, as well as previous episodes, to get all the news articles that we talked about on the show, as well as our trailer of the week, if you don't want to just search for it. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to Movie Nation.
Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
You can like us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Movie Nation Podcast, or follow us on Twitter at Movie Nation Pod.
Nobody likes you. Everybody hates you.
If that's so, and you would like to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show, you can do so at the respective socials, or send us an email, movienation@hotmail.com. That's movienation@hotmail.com. Or you can do so on our episode post over at movie-nation.com. That's movie-nation.com.
And tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
And you have the freedom to listen to us next time.
He's looking at you, kid.